I remember the exact moment my name echoed across the stadium speakers. Ava Martinez. For a few seconds, everything felt light. Like all the nights I stayed awake studying, all the double shifts, all the silent moments where I doubted myself finally meant something. I stood, smoothed my gown, and began walking toward the stage. But halfway down the aisle, I turned my head and the air left my chest. 5 reserved seats, all empty. No dad, no stepmother, no siblings. Not even the little congratulations sign I asked my sister to hold. Just emptiness staring right back at me. My steps slowed, but I forced myself to keep moving. What else could I do? I shook hands with the dean, smiled for the camera, and kept glancing back at those seats still empty. When the ceremony ended, everyone flooded toward their cheering families. Flowers, balloons, laughter, photos, joy everywhere, except where I stood. Just me alone in the corner, holding my diploma tube like it was the only thing keeping me upright. My phone buzzed in my hand, a message from Dad. "You don't deserve this." 4 words, no explanation, no congratulations, nothing. I reread it over and over, hoping I misunderstood. But I hadn't. It was exactly what it looked like. Another reminder that in my family, I would always be the afterthought. It didn't start that day. It started years earlier, back when my father remarried. My stepmother, Leela, was polite enough in front of others. But behind closed doors, her kids were the priority. I was the extra, the helper, the convenient child who didn't need much. Birthday parties for them, new clothes for them, praise for them, chores for me. Dad always said, "Ava understands. She's strong," like it was a compliment. But really, what he meant was that I wouldn't complain. I wouldn't ask for anything. I wouldn't cause trouble. And he was right. I stayed quiet. I worked hard. I convinced myself that if I pushed a little more, if I excelled enough, someone would finally notice. But the more I achieved, the more invisible I became. So standing in that stadium, staring at those empty seats, reading that cruel message, it didn't just hurt. It cracked something inside me, something I didn't even know was still capable of breaking. I whispered to myself, "Not today, not again." Because for the first time, I felt something shift. Small, quiet voice inside me saying, "Enough." I didn't know it then, but that moment was the beginning of everything that came after. The truth I was about to uncover, the betrayal I never saw coming, and the cold, calm revenge I didn't plan on taking until the phone rang. And with that call, everything I believed about my family, about my father, was about to shatter. I was halfway home when my phone rang. My aunt's name flashed across the screen, my dad's older sister. She never called randomly. Only when something was wrong, I answered, trying to sound steady. "Hey, Aunt Maria." Her voice came tight, urgent. "Ava, sweetheart, are you okay?" I frowned. "Why wouldn't I be?" She exhaled shakily. "Your father told everyone you skipped your own graduation. He said you weren't ready, that you didn't earn it." My grip tightened on the steering wheel. "He said what?" "Oh, honey," she whispered. "I knew something wasn't right. That's why I called you directly." "Where are you?" "I'm in the car. Graduation ended an hour ago." She groaned under her breath, the sound of disappointment mixing with anger. "Ava, your stepmother is stirring things up again." My stomach twisted. What did she say now? "She told your father you cheated your way through school." I almost laughed, but it came out broken. "I worked 2 jobs. I barely slept." "How could she say that?" "Because you got a scholarship her daughter didn't," my aunt said softly. "And she didn't want your success overshadowing her kids." My hands froze. "She lied to him?" I whispered. "Ava, she's been lying for years." Silence filled the car. I felt my heartbeat in my throat. "How long?" I finally whispered. There was a pause on the other end, heavy, careful. "Since you were 16. Those words hit me like a punch. She kept going. "When you applied for that summer science program and thought you didn't get accepted, you did. The acceptance letter came to the house. Leela hid it." I felt my body go numb. "And that art competition senior year," she continued. "They didn't lose your work, Ava. She threw your submission away." My chest tightened so hard it hurt to breathe. Every moment I thought I wasn't good enough, every rejection I blamed myself for, every opportunity I assumed I simply missed, it wasn't me. It was her. Someone had been dimming my light on purpose. My aunt's voice softened. "Your father believed her. Every lie, every time. He thought he was keeping the peace." I leaned my head back against the seat, eyes burning. "So he ruined my graduation day because she convinced him my success was a threat?" My aunt didn't answer right away. When she spoke again, her voice trembled. "He used your graduation to punish you for being better than she wanted you to be." I closed my eyes. Sadness didn't just rise, it ignited into something sharper, something colder. "They wanted me small," I whispered. "Yes," she said, "but sweetheart, you're not. Not anymore. Not after hearing all this. Not after realizing the truth I had swallowed for years wasn't just unfair, it was intentional." I drove home slowly, headlights carving through the darkness, replaying my entire childhood like a film I suddenly understood. When I stepped through the front door, Leela was on the couch eating strawberries, flipping through TV channels like she hadn't just destroyed my graduation day. She glanced at me with a sugary smile. "Oh, back early. How did your little ceremony go?" Her words sliced through me, but I didn't flinch. "You didn't congratulate me," I said quietly. She shrugged without looking away from the TV. "Well, you didn't exactly deserve a celebration." Something inside me didn't break this time. It hardened. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't argue. I just met her eyes and said calmly, "You're going to regret saying that." Her expression faltered, but only for a moment. I walked upstairs with a steady pace and a steady breath, not because I wasn't hurting, but because for the first time in my life, hurt wasn't the end of my story. I was done shrinking, done being their quiet shadow, done playing the role they wrote for me. This time, I wasn't going to disappear. This time, I was going to fight back, not with anger, not with shouting, but but with truth, the kind of truth that destroys the lies people depend on. And they weren't ready for it, not even close. I locked myself in my room and sat on the edge of the bed, still wearing my graduation gown. It felt heavier now, like the weight of every year I spent believing I just wasn't enough. My father's text sat on my screen, glowing like a wound. "You embarrassed this family today." Those 5 words spun around in my mind, scraping at the parts of me still hoping he would someday see me. Embarrass them? For graduating? For walking across a stage alone because they didn't bother to show up? Another message buzzed. "We'll talk when I get home. Be prepared." Prepared for what? Prepared to be blamed? Prepared to be punished for succeeding? Prepared to play the villain again? I dropped the phone and wrapped my arms around myself. The silence in my room was suffocating, but it was a silence I knew well. It was the same silence I grew up in, uncelebrated, overlooked, forgot. My mother's voice suddenly drifted from memory, soft and steady. "When people show you who they are, believe them the first time." She died when I was 9. I didn't understand her words then. I do now. My father chose Leela, chose her children, chose her stories, chose her version of events, chose the easy lie over the uncomfortable truth, even when it meant losing pieces of me. A pain bloomed in my chest, slow and deep. I looked at the diploma tube on my desk, my name embossed in silver, a name I earned. "You earned this," I whispered to myself. "No one can take that away." But I also knew they would try. An hour passed before I heard the front door slam. I stood quietly, cracked my bedroom door open, and listened. Their voices came from the kitchen, low at first, then clearer. "She needs discipline," my father said. I told her she didn't deserve it. She should understand that we can't reward bad behavior. Bad behavior. My father thought my graduation was bad behavior. I put a hand over my mouth to keep from making a sound. Leela's voice came next, sharp and cold. "You did the right thing. Ava needs to be put in her place. Otherwise she'll get too confident. Too confident. As if my success wasn't something to celebrate, but something dangerous. As if I didn't belong in any space where I might shine brighter than her children." My father sighed. "She always makes things difficult." Difficult. That word hit harder than anything else. That's what I was to him, difficulty. A burden. Something he had to manage, not someone he loved. My eyes stung as I stepped back from the door. Something inside me shifted, not a snap, not a break. It was something firmer, a line being drawn. The next morning, I walked downstairs with my heart beating hard in my chest. I didn't know what I expected: to be yelled at, punished, ignored. Instead, I found something unexpected. A stack of mail on the counter. One envelope caught my eye, my name. A return address I recognized from a writing scholarship months ago. I opened it, expecting a rejection. Instead, I froze. "We attempted to reach you regarding your finalist placement. As we did not receive a response, your finalist position has been reassigned." Finalist. My breath hitched. They chose me. I had been good enough, more than good enough. But someone else decided I never needed to know. My hands shook as I noticed the signature beside "Receive." The messy loop on the L, it was her handwriting. I swallowed hard and dug deeper into the mail pile. A research internship offer. A campus award notification. A writing competition confirmation. All with signatures, all with her handwriting. All opportunities I never even knew existed. My throat tightened. My entire body felt cold. I wasn't forgotten. I wasn't unlucky. I hadn't failed. I had been sabotaged. On purpose. Strategically. Repeatedly. I sat at the kitchen table, gripping the counter to steady myself. Years of confusion fell into place. Years of wondering why doors closed before I even touched them. Why opportunities disappeared. Why I felt like I was always running uphill with weights strapped to my ankles. Footsteps approached. My father entered the kitchen, coffee cup in hand. "Oh," he said, startled. "You're up early." I looked at him, really looked at him. Not as a father, but as a man who allowed someone else to erase pieces of me right in front of him. He noticed the papers clenched in my hands. "What's that?" "My future," I said quietly. He frowned. "What do you mean?" Wordlessly, I placed the scholarship letter in front of him. He glanced, shrugged. "You must have missed it." "No," I said calmly. "She signed for it." He blinked. "So maybe she was just handling the mail." "Dad." My voice didn't rise. It didn't need to. "She hid them." He scoffed lightly. "Ava, don't start with accusations." I placed the second letter down, then the third, then the fourth, each one like a small explosion across the table. "These," I whispered, "are the things I lost because you trusted her more than you trusted me." He grew agitated. "Ava, stop being dramatic." A familiar phrase, but this time it didn't sink into me. It slid right off. "No," I said firmly. "I'm being honest." He shook his head, still refusing to understand. He couldn't see the truth because he wasn't ready to admit he helped build it. "I heard everything last night," I added quietly. "I know exactly what you think of me." His face paled. "You think I'm a problem, a disappointment. You think I embarrass you. You think I don't deserve the things I worked for." "Ava," he started, but I cut him off. "No, not this time." He stared at me like he didn't recognize who I was. I picked up the stack of papers and held them close to my chest. "I was never the problem," I said softly. "The problem is what happens when the daughter you underestimate finally stops believing your version of the truth." I didn't raise my voice. I didn't cry. I didn't beg. For once, I walked away with something both of them never expected: control. Upstairs, in the quiet of my room, I opened my laptop and began organizing. Screenshots, emails, applications, voicemails, every receipt, every timestamp, every piece of truth. As each file dropped into place, a new version of me emerged. Someone who wasn't asking to be believed. Someone who wasn't hoping to be seen. Someone who was ready to reveal everything they tried to hide. And for the first time ever, I had the evidence. I had the truth, I had myself. A storm was coming, a quiet one, a precise one, a storm with my name on it, and nobody in that house was ready. The next morning felt different, not calmer, not easier, just clearer. Like the fog that had been suffocating me for years finally lifted enough for me to see the shape of the cage I'd been living in. And now that I saw it, I couldn't unsee it. I carried the folder of evidence downstairs, every page inside humming with the weight of the truth. Emails I never sent, deadlines I never missed, opportunities I never declined. All of it signed, intercepted, or answered by the same person, Leela. She was sitting at the kitchen table when I walked in, scrolling casually through her phone as if she hadn't spent years quietly dismantling pieces of my future. She looked up, mildly surprised. "You're up early," she murmured. I didn't answer. I placed the folder on the table. The sound was small but sharp enough to cut through the silence. Her eyes flicked to it then to me, a flicker of suspicion quickly masked. "What's that?" "Everything you tried to hide," I said. She froze, just for a second. But it was enough. Before she could respond, my father walked in, coffee mug in hand, hair messy from sleep. He looked tired in that way someone looks when they've been avoiding the truth for too long. "What's going on?" he muttered. I looked at him, not with anger, not with fear, just tired clarity. "We're talking," he frowned. "About what?" I opened the folder and slid the first page toward him. "This." He glanced down, his eyebrows knit together. "What is this?" "An internship acceptance you never told me about," I replied. He shook his head. "I've never seen this." "Because I pointed at Leela, signed for it." Leela let out a soft, annoyed exhale. "Oh please, Ava, you're blowing things out of proportion." I slid the next page across the table, then another, and another. Soon the table was covered in the pieces of my stolen past, each page overlapping the next, each one carrying a story I never knew happened. My father stared at them like he was staring at broken glass. What is all this?" he asked, voice hollow. "The truth," I said quietly. "All the things you thought I failed at, all the things you thought I wasn't chosen for, all the things you believed I didn't deserve." His eyes moved slowly from page to page, confusion giving way to disbelief, disbelief giving way to something darker. "This can't be right," he whispered. This must be a mistake." I picked up one of the emails and held it out. "Look at the IP address," I murmured. He squinted at the numbers, at the location indicator, at the bold line that read, "Declined by recipient from household network." Leela shifted uncomfortably in her seat. "That doesn't mean anything. Maybe she—" "Stop," my father snapped suddenly, sharper than I'd ever heard him. She froze. He looked at me again. "Ava, why didn't you tell me about this before?" Something inside me cracked, not with pain, but with clarity. "I did tell you," I said softly. "Not with words, but every time I cried alone in my room, every time something didn't make sense, every time I asked why other people got opportunities I worked just as hard for." His eyes softened into something like regret. "I didn't know." "You didn't want to know," I whispered. Silence. It stretched between us, heavy and suffocating. Leela's voice cut in, brittle and defensive. "This is ridiculous. That was years ago. She's just trying to—" "No," I said, cutting her off with calm she didn't expect. "I'm not trying to ruin you. I'm trying to show him the truth." My father looked at Leela, really looked at her, like he was seeing her for the first time. "Did you do this?" he asked, voice trembling. She laughed too quickly. "Of course not." He pointed at the signature on one of the envelopes. "This is your handwriting." Her face tightened. "That doesn't prove anything. But the pattern does," I said softly. "Every missed opportunity, every silence, every door that closed before I even knew it existed." She opened her mouth to argue, but no words came out. My father turned to me, his face pale. "Ava, I am so sorry." I shook my head. "Don't apologize yet." He swallowed hard. "Why not?" "Because you still don't know all of it." I pulled out the one letter that broke me the most, the publishing finalist notification. I placed it gently in front of him. He stared at it, lips parted. "You were chosen," he whispered. "Yes." "And you never got the invitation?" "No." He traced the signature with shaking fingers. This is Leela's." She looked away. "Tell him," I said softly. She didn't speak. "Tell him," I repeated, voice steady. She swallowed. "I was trying to help my kids," she muttered. My father flinched. "By hurting mine? He has too," she snapped. "Why does Ava have to be special?" I felt something inside me go still. "I wasn't trying to be special," I whispered. "I was just trying to be seen." My father pressed a hand over his mouth, eyes wet. Leela stood abruptly, pointing a shaking finger at me. "You're manipulating him?" "No," my father said quietly. "You are." She froze. And for the first time ever, he didn't defend her. He didn't defend her lies. He didn't defend her choices. He defended me. He turned to me, voice barely above a whisper. "What do you want to do?" I looked at the papers. At him. At her. And then I said something even I didn't expect. "I want you to look through everything." He blinked. "All of it?" "All of it," I said. "Alone?" Leela's eyes widened. "Ava, I want him to see every lie," I said. "Every stolen chance. Every time you made him believe something about me that wasn't true." He nodded slowly, like each word weighed 1,000 pounds. "I will." I picked up the folder, pulled out a second stack underneath it, and placed them in his hands. "These are copies," I said. He looked up, confused. "Copies?" "Yes." "Why?" "So she can't destroy the originals." Leela's face went white. My father held the folder like it was something fragile, something sacred. "Ava," he whispered, "whatever happens next, I want you to know I'm on your side." I looked at him, the years of hurt still heavy, but something new flickering through the cracks, possibility. "You weren't before," I whispered. "I know," he said, "but I want to be now." Leela tried to speak, but he lifted a hand, stopping her instantly. "No," he said, "not anymore." And in that moment I saw it, the shift, the crack in her power, the unraveling of her lies, the beginning of an end she never saw coming. I gathered the remaining papers, pressed them to my chest, and stepped away from the table. For the first time ever, I wasn't the one shrinking in that house. She was. And I walked out before either of them could speak, the truth finally loud enough to echo behind me. I left the kitchen before either of them could say another word. My feet carried me upstairs, but my mind was racing far ahead. For the first time in my life, I wasn't running from something. I was walking toward the truth, the real truth, not the one they fed me, not the one they shaped for me, the one I finally uncovered myself. I reached my room and closed the door softly behind me. The sound wasn't loud, but it felt final, like the soft click of a lock turning on a chapter I was never meant to revisit. I leaned against the wood, closed my eyes, and breathed. A deep breath, a long breath, the kind I'd been holding in for years. For the first time, the air didn't burn. I looked around my room, at the desk where I cried over rejections I never actually received, at the bed where I wondered why I never felt good enough, at the window I stared through while imagining a life beyond the walls that kept me small. Everything looked the same, but nothing felt the same, because I wasn't the same girl anymore. I wasn't the quiet daughter who prayed they would see her. I wasn't the invisible child hiding in corners. I wasn't the one who swallowed her hurt and called it strength. I was awake now, and being awake is something you can't undo. I grabbed my laptop, opened it, and stared at the evidence spread across my screen. Emails, screenshots, messages, proof. Years of manipulation captured in lines of text and bits of data. Years of my life scattered across digital fragments. I gathered every file, every piece of my stolen opportunities, and placed them neatly inside a folder on my desktop. It felt symbolic, organizing the chaos they created. Downstairs, the murmur of voices rose and fell. My father asking questions, Leela scrambling for excuses. The sound was distant, muffled like it belonged to another world. Maybe it did, because the world I lived in now was different, wider, clearer. My phone buzzed, a message from my aunt. "Did you talk to him?" I typed back. "Yes, he knows." A minute later, her reply came. "I'm proud of you." 4 simple words. But for some reason, they hit deeper than any praise I'd gotten in years. Maybe because they came from someone who never tried to dim my light. I sat on my bed, letting her words settle into me, anchoring me. Then I stood and opened my closet, pulling out a small suitcase. Not because I was running, not because I was scared, because I was ready. I placed a few clothes inside, my diploma folder, my laptop, and the evidence I would never let leave my sight again. Every item I packed felt like a quiet reclaiming, a step out of the shadows I had been forced to live in. When I zipped the suitcase, it sounded like closing a book. I carried it downstairs slowly. My father was sitting at the dining table with the folder open in front of him, hands pressed against his face. He looked up when he heard me. His eyes were red, raw, disbelieving, like he had just watched the world he trusted collapse in his hands. "Ava," he breathed, voice shaking. I didn't know. I swear I didn't know. I didn't move closer. I didn't back away either. I just stood still and let the moment exist. "I know," I said quietly, "but knowing now doesn't erase everything." He nodded, wiping his eyes with his palms like he was ashamed to be seen hurting. "Where will you go?" "I'm staying with Aunt Maria." He exhaled, a mixture of relief and guilt. "You'll be safe there." Safe. The word lingered in the air like a ghost of something I'd never had in this house. Leela appeared in the corner of the room, arms crossed, face tight and pale. She wasn't crying. She wasn't apologizing. She was calculating. Even now, standing on the edge of everything unraveling, she was trying to figure out how to keep her grip on anything left. "You're really leaving?" she asked, as if the idea itself offended her. "Yes," I said. "And what now you get to play the victim?" she snapped. "You think you're better than us?" I looked at her, not with hate, not with anger, just with truth. "I don't think I'm better," I said softly. "I just think I deserve a chance to live." For a moment, there was silence, heavy, sharp, echoing between us like a crack splitting the floor. Dad stood slowly, like he was waking up for the first time in years. "Ava," he said, voice trembling, "I'll help you with anything you need. Rent, supplies, school, whatever it is." I nodded once. "Thank you." He lifted my suitcase gently and carried it to the door as if he was holding something fragile or something precious. Leela followed us, her voice rising in panic. "So that's it? You're just leaving? You're going to abandon the family?" I turned to her calmly. "I'm not abandoning anything. I'm removing myself from what was hurting me." She looked stunned, like the idea of me choosing myself was impossible to comprehend. Dad opened the door. Sunlight spilled into the hallway, warm and golden, touching the walls like a promise of something new, something better. He handed me the suitcase. "Ava," he whispered, "I'm sorry for all the years I didn't protect you." I swallowed, my throat tight but steady. "I don't need you to rewrite the past. I just need you to be better in the future." He nodded slowly. "I will be." I stepped outside. The sunlight felt different, almost like it recognized me, almost like it was welcoming me back to a world I'd been waiting to join. As I reached my car, he placed a hand on my shoulder. "Ava, I'm proud of you. Not because of school or awards or anything you've done. I'm proud of you because you finally stood up for yourself." I felt something warm flicker inside me, small, fragile, but unmistakably real. I opened my car door, placed the suitcase inside, and turned back one last time. Leela stood at the doorway, arms crossed, eyes burning with anger and fear she couldn't hide anymore. I met her stare with a calm she never expected from me. "You taught me something," I said softly. "You taught me that silence is how people lose their lives without dying. I won't be silent again." Her jaw clenched, but she said nothing. I got into my car, closed the door, and took a deep breath. My father stood beside the driveway, watching me with the kind of expression expression I'd been waiting my whole life to see: sorrow, pride, regret, hope. I rolled down the window just a little. "Goodbye," I whispered. He whispered it back. I drove away slowly, leaving behind the house that held my pain, my silence, and my forgotten self. As it shrank smaller and smaller in the rearview mirror, I realized I wasn't leaving home. I was finally going home. Not to a place, to myself. For the first few minutes of the drive, I didn't play music. I didn't open the windows. I didn't do anything except feel the weight lifting from my chest, layer by layer, like someone was slowly unbinding a rope that had been tied around me for years. Every breath felt different, cleaner, sharper, real. Halfway to my aunt's house, my phone buzzed again. Not with a message this time, a call from an unknown number. Normally, I'd ignore it, but something nudged me to answer. When I did, a woman's voice greeted me, calm and professional. "Hello, is this Ava Turner?" "Yes," I said cautiously. "This is Dr. Serrano from the University Admissions Office. I wanted to reach out personally regarding your appeal file." My heart thudded once, a deep, echoing sound that filled my chest. "Your appeal brought some concerns to our attention," she continued. "There appears to have been unauthorized interference with your applications." Interference. The word struck me like cold water. "We received your supplemental documents and the missing transcripts earlier today," she said, "and we completed a review." My fingers tightened on the steering wheel. I could barely breathe. "You've been accepted," she said softly, "with scholarship reinstated, and we've extended your decision deadline, given the circumstances. Welcome to the program, Ava." My vision blurred. I pulled over to the side of the road because driving suddenly felt impossible. For so long I'd told myself I wasn't good enough, not because of my abilities, but because someone else made me believe it. And now the truth was unfolding like sunlight breaking into a locked room. "Thank you," I whispered, my voice shaking. "Thank you so much. We look forward to having you," she said warmly. "And if you need support with anything, housing, counseling, anything at all, please reach out. You're not alone in this." When the call ended, I sat in silence, tears spilling freely down my face. Not tears of pain this time, not loss, not betrayal. These were tears of reclaiming. For the first time in years, I felt seen. I reached my aunt's house 20 minutes later. She opened the door before I even had a chance to knock. Her face softened when she saw me, and without a word, she pulled me into a tight embrace. The kind of hug you fall into. The kind that reminds you home can be a person. "You're safe," she whispered. "I've got you." She helped me unpack, made me tea, sat beside me on the couch while I told her everything, every detail, every hurt, every stolen opportunity. She didn't interrupt. She didn't minimize. She didn't tell me to move on. She listened the way people listen when they care more about understanding than responding. When I was done, she placed her hands over mine. "You were never the problem," she said. "You were just the easiest one for them to use." It hurt because it was true, but it also healed something inside me. That night, I slept in the guest room, the softest sleep I'd had in years. No anxiety clawing at my throat, no fear of knocking footsteps outside my door, no heavy silence pressing on my chest, just rest, real rest. In the morning, sunlight streamed through the window, warm and gentle. My aunt made breakfast, humming softly. It was the first peaceful morning I'd experienced in a long time, but peace doesn't mean silence forever. 2 days later, the consequences began. The first message came from my father. "Ava, can we talk?" I didn't respond. The second came an hour later. "I confronted your mother. She broke down. Your sister is spiraling. They didn't expect you to leave." A part of me would have crumbled at those words in the past, but not now. Now I could see clearly. Their unraveling wasn't because they loved me. It was because they lost control. Aunt Maria saw the look on my face and nodded knowingly. They're not used to losing their scapegoat. That afternoon, my father sent a long message. Apologies, regrets, desperate attempts to fix everything in one day. I read it twice, and although it stung, I didn't reply. Healing isn't instant, and forgiveness isn't guaranteed. Leela, on the other hand, contacted me in a very different tone. "You think you're so brave now? You think leaving makes you better than us? You're ruining the family." I narrowed my eyes at the screen. The girl who once controlled my silence was now choking on her own. I blocked her without a second thought. The next week, something unexpected happened. My father showed up at my aunt's house. But this time, he wasn't angry. He wasn't defensive. He wasn't protecting the wrong people. He was broken. He stood at the door, eyes red, hands trembling. My aunt stepped aside, letting him in, but she stayed close like a guardian, not a bystander. "Ava," he said quietly, "I need to talk to you. Not to excuse anything, just to tell you the truth." We sat at the table. He took a deep breath. "I knew things weren't fair," he began, "but I didn't know the extent of what they were doing. I didn't know Leela went into your email. I didn't know she altered your applications. I didn't know your mother supported it." His voice cracked. "I thought I was keeping peace by staying silent, but all I did was let you get hurt, and I am so sorry." He reached into his jacket and set an envelope on the table. "This is your savings," he said. "The money your mother moved to Leela. I took it back. It's yours." My chest tightened. My aunt placed a steady hand on my back. "There's more," my father said, looking down at the table. "I'm filing for separation." I blinked, stunned. "I should have done it years ago," he whispered. "Your mother's control, her favoritism, her manipulation, it didn't start with you. It started long before. I thought I could handle it, but I was wrong, and you paid the price." There was a long silence, not tense, not angry, just heavy. When he lifted his gaze, his eyes were wet. "I know I don't deserve it," he said slowly, "but I hope one day I can earn your forgiveness." I didn't speak, not yet, but I didn't turn away either. And that was something. We talked for a long time, not about fixing the past, not about blaming anyone, just about what healing could look like. It It wasn't pretty. It wasn't easy. It wasn't magical. But it was real, and real is enough. And he left. My aunt turned to me. You're changing the story, she said. Not just for yourself, for all of them. The next day, I signed the acceptance documents for the university. Full scholarship restored. My future mine again. As weeks passed, I rebuilt my life slowly. Some days were bright. Others were heavy. Healing isn't a straight line. It's a mosaic, 1,000 broken pieces rearranged into something stronger. And then one night, Leela messaged me from a new number. A single sentence. I don't know who I am without you here to compare myself to. I stared at those words for a long moment. Then I replied with the truth she needed to hear, not the one she wanted. That's your work to do, not mine. And I blocked her again, not out of anger, out of freedom. Months passed. I started school, made new friends, built a new routine. My father called sometimes, not to pry, not to guilt trip, just to check in. Slowly, cautiously, we began stitching something new from the ashes. One evening, while walking across campus, I stopped by a fountain. Students gathered around, laughing, talking, sharing their joy freely. And for the first time, I felt like I was one of them, not an outsider pretending to belong. I sat at the edge of the fountain and let the water's rhythm wash over me. This wasn't revenge. It wasn't victory. It was reclamation. And the girl I used to be, the quiet, invisible one, finally stepped aside and let me live. I took a deep breath and whispered 4 words that felt like the final line of a book I was meant to rewrite. I'm home. Finally home.